They wanted to take President Trump off the playing field. They were playing politics with law enforcement powers and will go down as a historic betrayal of public trust. This is the kind of conduct that shatters the American people's faith in our law enforcement system.
Things got pretty intense on Capitol Hill when Attorney General Pam Bondi found herself in the hot seat, facing off against Democratic senators. They were not holding back, grilling her about how she handled the prosecution of President Trump's opponents, including former FBI Director James Comey and even the Epstein files. It's no surprise that the White House was pretty happy with how she handled herself. So Pam Bondi was sitting there and she was totally defiant while clashing with the senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee. They accused her of letting President Trump turn the Justice Department into a tool for revenge and corruption.
President Biden never fired his own political appointees for refusing to prosecute his targets. What has taken place since January 20th, 2025 would make even President Nixon recoil. This is your legacy, Attorney General Bondi. In 8 short months, you have fundamentally transformed the Justice Department and left an enormous stain in American history. It will take decades to recover.
They were especially interested in her decision to go after James Comey just 6 days after Trump urged her to do so, with a tweet saying, "Nothing is being done and we can't delay any longer." When a senator pressed her for details about her conversations with Trump regarding Comey's indictment, she shot back, saying she wouldn't discuss those conversations. Classic dodging right there. Now picture this. You're Pam Bondi in front of Congress under oath, and senators are firing off questions about Trump, the 2020 election, your efforts to overturn it, and whether you're acting independently or just as Trump's lawyer. You're saying all the right things, promising independence and downplaying your role in the election chaos. But then fact checkers and legal experts start peeling back the layers.
What's the secret? Why do you want to keep this secret? The American people don't know the rationale behind the deployment of National Guard troops in my state. The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
They dive into public records, emails, and your old statements. And guess what? They spot contradictions. You've been caught refusing to retract false claims about Trump winning Pennsylvania, dodging questions about prosecuting his critics, and evidence pops up showing you privately acknowledged Trump lost while publicly suggesting otherwise. Suddenly, your testimony starts to fall apart. Legal experts are raising red flags, talking about possible perjury and lying to Congress, which could land you in some serious trouble.
Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House.
You won't even say whether you talked to the White House about this?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House with you, Ranking Member.
I noticed that.
Judges are keeping an eye on everything. They're warning about your defiance of court orders and throwing around terms like contempt and sanctions. Legal commentators are saying that if Bondi continues to lie under oath and defy judges, she could be looking at a court referral for prosecution, and that could mean real criminal consequences. It's honestly hard to believe what's unfolding right now. Meanwhile, Bondi, who's the Attorney General, is dodging questions about why the Justice Department shut down its investigation into Tom Heyman, a Trump aide. Heyman was allegedly caught on tape taking a bag stuffed with $50,000 during an FBI bribery sting in 2024.
Senator, I haven't seen the file. I haven't seen the investigation. I haven't looked at anything. It would be irresponsible of me to make a commitment regarding anything without, you're a long practicing attorney, without looking at a file.
So you would need a factual predicate to open an investigation of.
When asked about the tape containing audio and video of that transaction, Bondi suggested I should talk to Director Patel about that. But honestly, the senator pressed on, wanting answers directly from her. Her response was a bit evasive. Bondi would not clarify what happened to the $50,000 or whether Shimon actually took the cash. You can sense the tension, especially when she and the senator exchanged barbs about honesty.
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news
Are
is
you aware
horrible.
of a?
Do I know if he committed a crime? I have not
You
looked at
seem
it.
reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that
No,
question.
it's not hypothetical.
So here's the scoop. Pam Bondi testified at her confirmation hearing back in January 2025, making bold claims about being independent from Trump. She assured everyone she wouldn't act as his personal lawyer and that she would uphold the law no matter what. However, when senators grilled her about the 2020 election, Trump's assertions of winning Pennsylvania, and her earlier promises to go after prosecutors targeting Trump's critics, she was all over the place. People quickly pointed out that her testimony didn't line up with her past statements and raised serious concerns about whether she was being honest under oath. And let's not forget her October missteps. During a hearing in 2025, senators really pressed Pam Bondi about the Department of Justice's handling of the Epstein files and her chats with Trump regarding indicting James Comey.
Attorney General Bondi, why did you publicly claim to have the Epstein client list waiting for your review and then produce nothing relevant to that claim?
Senator Durbin, if you listen to my entire clip on that, I said I had not reviewed it yet, that it was sitting on my desk along with the JFK files, the Martin Luther King files, and I said I had not yet reviewed it.
It was clear she was pretty evasive, dancing around the questions like a pro. She kept saying she couldn't discuss ongoing matters, which didn't sit well with the senators. They were frustrated, accusing her of contempt and hiding the truth. It seemed they felt she was more focused on protecting Trump than following legal standards.
That a legal rationale for deploying National Guard troops becomes grounds for a personal attack. I think it's a legitimate question. It's my responsibility. She refuses to answer as to whether she had any conversation with the White House about deploying national troops to my state. That's an indication, I'm afraid, where we are politically in this place.
Watching this unfold, legal analysts started to raise eyebrows, suggesting it could be more than just dodging questions. They hinted at the possibility of false statements or even perjury. If Bondi was lying to Congress or misrepresenting facts under oath, she could be stepping into serious trouble, a federal crime, no less. Former prosecutors appearing on different programs explained the legal framework around perjury under 18 U.S.C. 1001, specifically regarding lying to Congress. They highlighted that if Bondi privately acknowledged Trump lost the 2020 election or had called his request for 11,180 votes crazy, but then under oath claimed ignorance about it, that might set her up for a false statement case. The stakes are high here. You simply can't lie to Congress. If prosecutors find that Bondi has crossed that line, they could charge her with perjury and pursue a conviction. On top of the potential lying issues, there's also her defiance against court orders. Bondi's been tied up in litigation concerning the Epstein files, and judges have issued clear orders for the DOJ to hand over documents to ensure transparency. However, Bondi has allegedly been stalling, withholding documents and claiming exemptions that don't really apply. This situation is frustrating judges who are moving from polite requests toward discussions of sanctions. Legal commentators predict that if Bondi keeps this up, she might find herself facing contempt charges. Judges could impose significant penalties or even recommend criminal referrals to prosecutors, potentially leading to time behind bars. So while it's not a done deal yet, the path towards serious consequences is starting to take shape for Bondi if she doesn't change her approach. Just how deep is she in trouble? It certainly seems like she's flirting with some serious charges. Let's talk about the situation with Pam Bondi, which really kicks off at her confirmation hearing in January 2025. During her testimony, she was asked about how independent she would be from Trump, specifically whether she would serve as his personal lawyer or act as the nation's attorney general. Bondi answered all the right questions, promising that she'd be independent and would follow the law while insisting she wouldn't carry out any illegal or improper orders. However, things started to go downhill when senators pressed her for more details. They brought up the 2020 election and Trump's false claims about winning Pennsylvania. Bondi not only refused to recant those claims, but also wouldn't say that Trump lost the state. She dodged the questions, which caught the attention of fact checkers, who quickly pointed out that she was spreading false information while under oath. This raised serious doubts about her credibility and whether her vow to uphold the law was genuine or simply a performance. Then senators dug into her previous statements, particularly her promises on Fox News to prosecute those who went after Trump, as well as her attacks on people investigating him. Although she attempted to downplay those remarks by calling them campaign talk, the senators weren't convinced her earlier rhetoric was specific. She named people, accused them of wrongdoing, and promised prosecution. Now, under oath, she was trying to say it was all just talk, and the senators were not having it. They pointed out that her past statements conflicted with her current testimony, which was a significant issue. Legal analysts began weighing in and breaking down the situation. Former prosecutors on CNN explained what constitutes perjury, stressing that it involves making a false statement under oath that is material to the case, along with the knowledge that the statement was false at the time. They went through examples of Bondi's testimony, suggesting that if she had privately acknowledged Trump lost the election, and there were emails or recordings of her saying so, but then denied it under oath, that could potentially be perjury. Pam Bondi might find herself in some hot water, especially regarding her testimony. She's been accused of lying to Congress, which falls under 18 U.S.C. 1001, a federal crime that comes with a potential 5-year prison sentence. Now, perjury cases don't happen often, but they can if it looks like someone is telling fibs to protect themselves or someone influential. And let's be honest, Bondi seems to be covering for Trump. She's clearly avoiding acknowledging facts that could put Trump in a bad light and dodging questions about his questionable actions. If prosecutors think her evasiveness crosses the line into lying, they could charge her. Every time she denies something that's well documented or contradicts her earlier statements, it adds to the case against her. Take the oversight hearing in October 2025, for instance. She was hit with tougher questions regarding the Department of Justice's handling of Epstein files, and whether she had conversations with Trump about specific cases. Instead of providing answers, she opted to stonewall, claiming she couldn't discuss ongoing matters and leaning on executive privilege and prosecutorial discretion. Senators were not having it. They were furious, accusing her of showing contempt for oversight and neglecting her responsibility to be open with Congress. They made it clear that you can't just refuse to respond to questions or obstruct congressional oversight. The consequences for that kind of behavior aren't limited to just political fallout. They could easily turn legal. Obstructing Congress is a crime, and that's where contempt of Congress comes into play. If the House decides to hold someone in contempt, they can send it over to the Department of Justice for prosecution. But here's the twist. Bondi is at the helm of the DOJ, so it's unlikely she'd prosecute herself. However, if Democrats gain control of Congress in 2026, they could step in and hold her in contempt, using inherent contempt to arrest her or wait until Trump's out of office and refer her to a future DOJ for prosecution. Given Bondi's history of evasion and obstruction, any case they build would be quite compelling. On top of all that, she's been involved in litigation concerning the Epstein files, and federal judges have issued orders through the Epstein Files Transparency Act requiring the DOJ to release specific documents. So, here's the situation with Pam Bondi. She's been playing a bit fast and loose with some court orders, acting like she's above it all. Legal experts are watching this closely and pointing out that she's been stalling, claiming exemptions that simply don't fit the bill. She's also been holding back important documents, and I can tell you the judges are not amused. They've given her warnings that started off polite, then moved to firmer requests. And now they're talking about real consequences like sanctions and contempt. Now, if she keeps this up, things could get serious. The judges have the power to hold her in contempt and slap her with financial penalties. They could even hand it over to prosecutors saying, "Here's someone who's ignoring our orders. Consider charging her with contempt. If it goes that far and she's convicted, it could lead to prison time. That path is all cleared. It's just waiting for her to make the next move." What makes this situation even stickier for Bondi is her position. She's not just any lawyer. She's the Attorney General, the top enforcement officer in the country. Ideally, she should be setting an example by following the law and being straightforward in court. Instead, she's been dodging questions, spinning her own statements, and not exactly telling the truth when it comes to Congress. This kind of behavior creates a massive amount of risk for her because law enforcement officials who step out of line face serious repercussions. Courts and prosecutors take it as a big betrayal and aren't hesitant to act. Analysts are pointing out that Bondi is building up quite the record of dishonesty and obstruction. If Congress holds hearings or if prosecutors come knocking, all this will be documented, showing she can't be trusted. And when we look at other similar cases, it gets even more concerning. Take Michael Cohen, who went to prison for lying to Congress, or Roger Stone, who got convicted for lying and threatening witnesses. Both faced prosecution for lying under oath. Bondi seems to be heading down the same path, potentially feeding false statements to the congressional committees. If prosecutors believe she's lying to cover for Trump or herself, expect charges to come her way, including the prospect of prison time. Pam Bondi finds herself in quite a tricky spot, and it's clear she knows it. Instead of tackling questions head-on, she's been dodging them, which just makes it look like she has something to hide. Every answer she gives could be scrutinized, compared against emails, documents, and recordings, and if there is any mismatch, it could be seen as proof that she's lying, which is something prosecutors could definitely use against her. So her plan to keep quiet, it's kind of backfiring. Her evasive responses are only making her look guiltier and drawing more interest from those investigating her. Let's break down why Pam Bondi's issues with her testimony are much more serious than just a political mess. They could actually be crimes. For starters, in her confirmation testimony, she contradicted her own records. She claimed to be independent while refusing to take back false statements that Trump had won Pennsylvania. She promised to uphold the law, but was evasive when asked about prosecuting those who criticized Trump. Fact-checkers have pointed out several instances where her sworn statements didn't line up with documented facts or her own earlier comments. This can lead to trouble because lying under oath, even if it's through evasion, can be prosecuted as perjury or false statements under federal law. Then we have legal analysts saying her testimony might bolster a false statement case. Former prosecutors discussed this on television, suggesting that if she privately acknowledged Trump had lost the 2020 election but wouldn't admit it under oath, that could be considered perjury. And if she had concerns about Trump's call regarding finding 11,180 votes, but testified that she was unaware of any issues, that's basically lying to Congress. While prosecutors don't have to press charges, they certainly can, especially if they believe her lies were significant enough to impact Congress's assessment of her qualifications. Clearly, her dishonesty was material since it played directly into whether she was truly independent or just acting as Trump's personal attorney. Lastly, during her oversight hearing in October, Bondi was extremely evasive. She shied away from questions about her discussions with Trump, the indictment of Comey, and the Epstein files. Senators even accused her of contempt for oversight, suggesting she was trying to hide the truth. So, it looks like there's a pretty serious situation brewing for Pam Bondi. The groundwork is being set for some big consequences, especially since she's been accused of obstructing Congress's constitutional duties. While there hasn't been a formal contempt finding just yet, if the Democrats regain control of Congress, they could kick off hearings to document her refusals and vote to hold her in contempt. This could lead to prosecution either by Congress arresting her directly or through a criminal referral to the Department of Justice later on. Moving on, judges are definitely warning Bondi about ignoring court orders. Legal experts have noted that the tone of the warnings regarding the Epstein files has shifted from polite requests to firm orders and even discussions about possible sanctions and contempt. The message seems pretty clear. If Bondi keeps ignoring these court orders and withholds documents without a good reason, the judges have the power to act. They could hold her in contempt, slap her with hefty fines, or make those criminal referrals. The path to serious trouble is clear. It's just waiting for her to mess up once more. Now let's talk about the gravity of lying to Congress. That's actually a federal crime. Under 18 United States Code 101, it could land someone in prison for up to 5 years, not to mention the penalties for perjury, which also carries a 5-year sentence. These aren't just minor political scandals. We're talking about real crimes with real consequences. Remember Michael Cohen? He did time for lying to Congress. Roger Stone was convicted for it, too. If prosecutors decide Bondi indeed lied, she could face a similar fate. Imprisonment, a criminal record, and even losing her law license, all for lying under oath to protect Trump. Also, it's worth mentioning that Bondi's evasions indicate a troubling pattern of dishonesty. This isn't just a one-time thing. We're looking at multiple hearings and instances where she's dodged questions, along with contradictions between her testimony and the available facts. Patterns like this catch the eye of prosecutors because they reveal intent. They suggest it's not just a simple mistake or misunderstanding. This is deliberate, systematic lying. That makes it a whole lot easier to prosecute her, especially since it's tough to argue you misspoke when it's happened repeatedly across numerous hearings. Finally, while there are some viral videos out there claiming a judge has paved the way to prison for Bondi, those are more dramatized fiction than reality. The actual legal analysis, however, holds water. If she doesn't stop defying court orders and continues lying under oath, judges can take steps leading to prosecution. They can hold her in contempt and make those all-important criminal referrals. Right now, there's a chance for Pam Bondi to be held accountable, especially since she sits at the helm of Trump's charged Department of Justice. It's crucial because she's not just any witness. She's the Attorney General tasked with upholding the law fairly. If she's found to be lying, using her position to protect Trump, instead of following the law, that crosses into territory of abuse of power and corruption. It puts her squarely in the sights of Congress and future prosecutors who are eager to hold Trump's administration accountable. Proving that the Attorney General lied would be a significant blow to the entire Justice Department. Currently, Bondi is under protection since Republicans control Congress and she leads the DOJ, meaning there's no one pushing to prosecute her or hold her in contempt. But everything could shift if Democrats reclaim power in 2026. If they take over the House, they could hold hearings to document her lies, vote on contempt, and potentially arrest her or refer her to a future DOJ for prosecution. The evidence against her is piling up, with her evasions and contradictions noted in multiple hearings, making that case quite strong. It just needs the political will to move forward. Interestingly, Bondi's legal issues mirror those of Trump. She faces potential prosecution that's currently on hold due to political backing. If that backing vanishes with a change in power, both she and Trump would find themselves exposed. Trump might be looking at impeachment alongside criminal charges, while Bondi could be facing contempt and perjury charges. Prosecutors could leverage one against the other, charge Bondi, threaten her with prison, and offer a deal to cooperate against Trump in exchange for a lighter sentence. That's a strategy in play, and her lies under oath make her an ideal target for it. So, here's the situation. Pam Bondi has testified to Congress multiple times, and her statements don't line up with documented facts or even her previous statements. They contradict what legal analysts suggest she privately admitted, which opens the door for potential charges of perjury and false statements under 18 U.S.C. 1. Prosecutors already have evidence to act. Her sworn testimony is on record. The situation surrounding Pam Bondi is pretty intense. There's a lot of evidence stacking up against her, showing contradictions in her statements and documenting her evasions. Throughout several hearings, judges are paying attention and have started issuing warnings about her defiance of court orders and her reluctance to provide documents. It's becoming clear that if she continues down this road, there will be serious consequences. We're talking about potential contempt findings, sanctions, and even criminal referrals, all tools that courts use to ensure compliance, which could ultimately lead her to face prison time if convicted. This isn't just about one major court ruling. It's a cumulative effect from multiple hearings highlighting misconduct. Legal analysts are documenting the inconsistencies and fact-checkers are revealing the lies. All of this is building a solid record, one that prosecutors can rely on. It shows that Bondi lied under oath, obstructed oversight, ignored court orders, and took advantage of her position as Attorney General. And let's not forget, this record is permanent. officially documented and just waiting for the right moment. There's a sense that this could change political conditions, perhaps leading to a scenario where prosecutors finally decide to take action against her. If that day comes, especially with Democrats gaining power or Trump facing impeachment, Bondi could find herself facing serious criminal charges for perjury, contempt, and lying to Congress with real prison time on the line. When you lie under oath and defy the courts, eventually the law catches up to you. It might not happen overnight, especially while she still has some political protection, but it will happen. Right now, her sense of security hinges on Republican control of Congress, Trump's position in office, and whether prosecutors choose to remain inactive. But this isn't guaranteed. If the political landscape shifts even slightly, let's say the Democrats win big in 2026, or a future Department of Justice decides to pursue her, Bondi could be in deep trouble. Ultimately, all of this could come back to bite her based on her own statements and actions.